Hey guys, so I know I'm not alone when I say it, but the Legend of Zelda series is probably my favourite series of all time. And I don't know whether it's because of the story, the puzzles, the dungeons, or just the feeling of adventure that you get when you play each entry, but I've yet to play a single Zelda game that I dislike. Hey, get out of here! No one wants you! But we didn't speak about those games. So what would happen if Nintendo decided to make a Zelda game without all the Zelda mechanics that we all know and love? Well, we'd get Hyrule Warriors, and does it make sense? Does it actually work? Let's find out and see if Hyrule...
Hi, boy!
Hey, what did I tell you? Get back in your cage! Don't want to see you again. Sorry about them, guys. Didn't mean for them to show up like this. God, I really hate those games. They always just sort of show up.
Squadala!
Alright, that's it. Wait. What'd you say?
Squadala!
Oh, okay. Wait, what?
So the story for Hyrule Warriors is pretty simple. Basically there's this person called Sia who protects the Triforce usually. However, for some unknown reason, she decides to invade Hyrule. So Link, a soldier in training, along with Zelda, Impa and a bunch of other almost useless soldiers, aim to defend themselves and essentially get rid of the threat. Although basic, the storyline still manages to be engaging, and I found myself getting really interested in a lot of the events that played out. But the story was more of an excuse to bring in a bunch of other Zelda characters from past games. This fanservice is what managed to keep me enticed the whole way through. I mean, let's be honest here, Hyrule Warriors' main goal is to make fans like us go mental. I mean, seeing all these different characters from Ocarina of Time, Skyward Sword and Twilight Princess in the same game is enough to make any fan gasp in excitement. Just the little nods to past games was enough to make the experience for me. Also, the cutscenes here are absolutely stunning, and the lack of voice acting actually didn't bother me as much as I thought it would. Fanservice aside, the gameplay is pretty interesting. Having not played a Dynasty Warriors game before, this was all completely new to me. Pretty much you have to complete any objectives that show up during the battle while protecting your base at the same time. You'll also be taking outposts and capturing keeps in order to weaken the enemy and maybe, if you're lucky, gain some rewards. This combination of objectives really is exhilarating and makes what you're doing feel like it has such a large impact on the outcome. You feel so strong just taking out hundreds of enemies, almost like a one-man army. Because, well, let's be honest here, you essentially are. Your allies really don't do anything, especially the Hylian captains, who are almost always dying for some reason or another. You can also stray away from major objectives and go for some treasure hunting, or maybe try find some sculptures that only appear for a short period of time. With all these things to worry about, it can really force you to make some tough decisions. Do you take over this keep? Do you go for the sculpture while you have the chance? Or should you go and help someone in trouble? Most likely the Hylian captain. These choices can really affect the events that play out and make for some of its best moments. The game doesn't really tell you about how to do all this though, and it did take me a while to understand it all. I mean, there are tutorials to be fair, but they were pretty short and very general. But you'll most likely understand it all after experimenting with things. Each different character you get has a skill tree of sorts that they can unlock new combos and different buffs. The combos are very similar to each other in terms of the buttons you have to press, so it's no Street Fighter, but they all do a slightly different thing for each character. It's easy to pick up and pretty soon you'll be looking like a complete badass. Slashing through hordes of enemies feels great, and the every so often tough enemy makes for a good change of pace. However, I did find the lock-on feature was pretty sloppy at times. When you're fighting a bigger enemy, you have the ability to lock onto them by pressing L. This worked well when they were the only big enemy on the screen at the time, but when another tough foe came along, the fast nature of the game really made it harder than it needed to be. Usually when you're battling one large minion, you lock onto them and strategically dodge, block and attack when required. But when there are two or more at the same time, you only have the ability to lock onto one at a time. So while concentrating on one, the other could jump into you from outside the viewable area and make you take damage. This just causes you to battle the camera the whole time, all while trying to concentrate on enemies that pretty much attack every 2 seconds. This didn't happen all too often in the story mode, or aka legend mode, but in adventure mode, there are many of these types of missions. They cramp you inside a tiny space with 3 large enemies that you essentially become a punching bag. I found it unfairly difficult when I couldn't even see what attacks were coming my way. Also, I ran into a few performance issues when loads of enemies came on screen. The frame rate can really drop for a short period of time, and believe me, it's noticeable. The AI at times could really take you out of the experience too, as sometimes they'll just stand there, not even moving. This is kind of understandable considering the amount of enemies on screen at once, but still, it doesn't change the fact that the problems are there. Also, is it just me, or is there something off about the graphics? I don't know, the cutscenes are absolutely beautiful, but when you're actually fighting, it kinda looks a bit strange. I can't really pinpoint exactly what it is, but I think it's got to do with the textures and the flatness of the environment. Maybe even the saturation of the colours, especially the green in the grass. But, I don't know, some of the events that can take place during a battle can also look a bit out of place as well. It's hard to say exactly once again, but I think it's got to do with some of the interactions between the characters and the environment. They just don't feel like they're truly working together. Despite all this, the amount of content here will definitely keep you busy. If you're aiming for 100%, each scenario in Legend Mode, which is essentially the story mode, would require multiple playthroughs. Challenge Mode includes special unique objectives that are, well, challenging. Adventure Mode would require you to complete all the sections at an A rank while getting all the treasure, which believe me would take a while. And there's also unlocking all the characters and their weapons, getting every skill, and there's also a bunch of medals that are just like they were in A Link Between Worlds. So yeah, this game will last you, there's no need to worry about that.
So the biggest selling point about this game is obviously the fan service. You know, without it, I really doubt I'd love this game as much as I do now. Because just seeing all the characters in the same game, and like in the scenarios, all the different games coming together, it's as shallow as it sounds, it really makes the game for me. So I'm going to give this 3 points. I think the main point of Dynasty Warriors, which is the game that they collaborated with, is to make the player feel like an absolute badass, you know, to make them get exhilarated, and Hyrule Warriors does just that. You know, tearing up thousands of enemies really legitimately feels good, so I'm going to give this 3 points as well. Because of all the options that you can have while you're battling, it can really push you to make some tough decisions, because maybe a Skulltula's popped up over there, but Lana needs help over there, and you go for the Skulltula, but because Lana's basically died, you've lost the whole thing. So it can make your, once again, your decisions feel like they have such an impact on everything that's going to go on, and your overall victory later on. So I'm going to give this 2 points. If you're looking to 100% complete this game, it's going to take a long time. You know, you've got to do the Legend Mode, which doesn't take too long initially, but if you tried, you know, doing it with all characters, the Skulltulas, pieces apart, it can take a pretty long time. And also you have Challenge Mode, you got Free Mode, you got all the medals you have to do, the trophies, Adventure Mode, which will take you probably the most time, because there's a lot of challenges in there, and it can actually get legitimately hard. So I'm going to give this 2 points as well, as it really is a lengthy game if you're looking to complete it. Something that I would like to see in the upcoming core Zelda game is some beautiful cutscenes, because Hyrule Warriors has some breathtaking cutscenes. You know, the pre-rendered ones look absolutely stunning, and even the non-pre-rendered ones, the precision that in-game sort of graphics, it still looks really good, and you know, I could watch those cutscenes all day. So I'm going to give this 1 point, as it's a neat little touch. Alright, now on to the bad. So something that I really noticed was the technical issues. So there's a lot of frame rate drops when a bunch of enemies come on screen, and I found the AI to be a bit dumb at times, you know, just standing there, not doing anything while you run past all of them. And also the graphics, they're a mixed bag. You know, it's a pretty game, but there was something off about it. I really can't put my finger on it, but like I said in the review, I think it's something to do with the enemy's interaction with the environment. It's not as smooth and as seamless as I would have liked it. But I don't know, that's just me. But the frame rate and the AI is definitely noticeable, so I'm going to minus 2 points. The lock-on feature in 3D Zelda games is pretty integral by now, you know, it's always been pretty good. And Hyrule Warriors, it's a mixed bag, you know, you got this, when you're locking onto one enemy and there's only one massive enemy on screen, it's pretty good, you know, it's just as good as it was in the other Zelda games. But when 3 or more pop up on screen and you can't really keep track of them all, I can find it a bit unfair at times, you know. I don't want to get hit by something I can't even see twice, 2 monsters while I'm trying to keep track of one, and because they attack so quick in this game, it feels very unfair at times, so I'm just going to minus 1 point for that.
Okay, let's see how Hyrule Warriors stacks up.
So overall, Hyrule Warriors is a pretty good game if you're a fan of Zelda. If you're a fan of Zelda, then definitely get this game. It's just a lot of fun to play. But if you're kind of new to the series, I'd definitely play some of the core Zelda games before jumping into this one, because I think the main keeper of this is the fan service and just the exhilaration of seeing all of these characters just duke it out and be awesome. So, you know, it's a good game, it's a solid game, but definitely not as good as the core franchises, which, you know, is to be expected. So, definitely pick this up if you're a fan. If you're not a fan, maybe wait a bit until you get to know Zelda a bit more. Well, that'll wrap up my video for today, you guys. So remember to like, favorite, comment, subscribe, you know all that stuff by now. And I guess I'll see you in my next video, which will probably be something I'm guessing to do with Smash Bros. 3DS, because that's the next big game, and pretty fun for that. So I'll see you all then. Bye.
My boy.